Ooh. There we go, Jeff. It's an alright one. Oh yeah. Look at that. Look at it. Look at it. Boom. Alright guys, good morning. Jeff and I this morning decided to head out here to do some urban fishing. I just grabbed one rod, one reel, and some really light line and some straight tail baits. Alright, so we're going to be running some hover shot today. We're going to talk you through how we're doing it, and hopefully we'll catch a bunch of fish. Hello.
You have an audience this morning.
I know.
The joys of urban bass.
Yeah, right. Alright guys, so currently I got a 2.5 Mylar Minnow tied on. I have it on the size 2 Ryugi hover shot hook, and then I have a 0.15 gram weight in there. Right, so the hover stroll, when you're fishing it, you want it to stay near the top of the column. It wants to hover over everything, right? You don't want to sink it down. You don't want it to be too heavy, so you want to pick baits that are semi-buoyant, that don't sink very fast, and then that you can control while moving it slow. So a lot of the times you'll get these baits when you chuck them out there and you're moving them, and you got to move them fast to keep them up. But right now, what we're trying to do is move it slow and keep it towards the top of the surface. I got 6-pound fluoro on here, which I think might still be a little bit too heavy. These hooks are really light wire, and some of them could get bent out. Boom, there it is.
You really like that Mylar Minnow.
Yeah, the Mylar Minnow is a great bait. I've been using it for years now, and there's so many different applications for it. I think the first time I ever seen a hover stroller was used with a bait very similar to this. I don't know what it's called, but as soon as I saw the Mylar Minnow, I was like, oh, I know what I can do with this. So that's how I started using it. And then, bam, it's just, these techniques come out of Japan, and they're so interesting, right? You gotta try them. Like who's a real finesse guy? Like, I'm not a finesse guy, but you gotta try it because it just looks cool, and it catches a ton of fish. When the fish are suspended and the bite is tough, this is definitely a technique I like to grab. So continue. I'm just gonna cast it out there. I'm gonna let it sit. I'm gonna shake the tip of my rod barely and reel in and get some of these scared. Oh, I just got bit. Some of these suspending fish, and hopefully they'll come grab it.
So why do you think hover strolling really excels in these pressured urban ponds?
I think it's an easy meal, and when these fish are pressured, I feel like they're stressed out. That's why they're like moving away. They're not really eating too much, but when they see an easy meal, it looks like a scurrying bait fish. It's gonna be in their zone, so when they're suspended, they're not really looking to like hunt. So you put that bait right in their face, and they just, they're such aggressive predators, they have to eat it. It's not sinking too fast, it's not running away too fast, it's a super easy meal, and they just like to munch it. That's what I feel. One big key is to have a reel that has a really good drag on it. Since you're going so light line, super light wire hook, you got to make sure that drag can pull and it goes easy. And obviously this is going to be my choice, but that's the biggest thing about this reel that makes it so great, is the drag system on it.
What's one of the bigger mistakes that you see guys doing with the hover strolling, you think, that's not getting them the results that they're looking for?
I think they're using too heavy of a weight in their minnow. And then another thing is that a lot of guys, because their gear is so heavy, they're whipping the bait. But you really have to do a soft cast on these, or the hooks are just going to tear through the baits. I mean, they're spine hooked barely into the plastic, and a lot of them don't have bait keepers on them. So you're going to be constantly readjusting your bait, and it's going to cause you to tear it, things like that. So I think not using the proper gear is the biggest mistake that I think happens. Dude, a light rod is so important for this, dude. These baits are so light, you just don't want to weigh them down. I mean, this one right here is an F2.5, and it might still be a little bit on the heavy side. It's been Elseil too, but this rod is so, it doesn't weigh anything. It feels good in my hand. It's got this tip on it where it bends deep into the blank, but it's still strong enough for me to twitch the tip without pulling the bait forward very much. So I really like this rod.
So when are you choosing the hover stroll over, you know, maybe other lures in your arsenal?
When I notice the fish get really picky and they're not even looking at some of the other baits that I'm throwing. So normally a bass will just kind of check it out. But when, you know, you're throwing like a jig or something and it's hitting the fish and he doesn't even care, that means he has no interest in trying to defend himself against that fish. So you get something smaller in there that they could suck in from like a foot away. I mean, they can be far, maybe not a foot, but maybe 4 or 5 inches away. They can just suck it in there. When you're in high pressure situations, it's usually a bait that I start with. And then when you notice that they're suspending a lot, very good for suspending fish. Sometimes I'll put a heavier weight in there and fish it lower in the column when I'm in deeper water. One of the baits that I have in my bag here is one of my favorite baits to throw in a hover shot in moving water. And we'll get that out and show you the action of that one here in a bit. But it's pretty dope.
Do you like clean water? Are you always looking for clean water with this technique, or?
I'm always looking for clean water, period. But it doesn't have to be clean water. You can adjust to everything. Bass have a crazy knack of finding things no matter what the water clarity is, and they'll get to it no matter what the water clarity is. But if you can watch it happen, it's so much easier to fish it. You can see if the fish's behavior, you can see if they're going to attempt to eat it, and then it'll help you build patterns for the day too. So, you know, if you catch one fish, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be on that bite. But if you catch 2 or 3, then you know exactly how deep they want it, what action they want it. They want it twitch fast, they want it slowly, eye motion style, just cranked in or reeled in. Yeah, you get to do a lot of stuff with it. That's not real. Alright, there's a little guy with a fucked up tail. Mylar Minnow. There you go. So that was pretty cool. Jeff spotted a school of bass just roaming around, flicked it in front of them. They attacked it immediately and I messed it up. But luckily I was able to get it back out there and then I got to eat. Yeah.
That's the size nail weight.
Yeah.
It's a little small.
It's tiny, dude.
Holy crap.
So it's going to go right underneath the skin of the back, down the center. And get it in there. So it sits just like that. That hook is barely in there. And then we're going to add the tiniest weight. So this bait here is the Megabass Hazedong. It's a 3-inch. It is going to sink a lot faster, but see how that, I don't know if you can see it, but how that hook spins, it rotates. That's what gives that side flash. So when you're working it, that 90-degree angle on there really gives it that side to side. So it gives it that flash, and then that tail's in the back just kind of twitching, and it gives it like a dual action. So, and that's on all the baits. That's why the Mylar Minnow does so well, I think, because it has that piece of Mylar in there, and when it twitches sideways, it just flashes. So let's go try to catch another one.
So when it comes down to fishing the hover stroll, are you fan casting around? Is this a search bait for you, or is this mainly like, hey, I know there's fish in the area, and this is a really good bait to fish?
So normally I'm going to do some sight fishing first. I'm going to start off sight fishing, and then I'm going to do...
Well, let's just... So when it comes down to hover strolling, are you fishing this as like a search bait, like casting around, or is this mainly like a bait for, if you know there's fish in the area, I'm gonna try and use this?
So I'm gonna start off as like sight fishing. I'm gonna try to sight fish these fish. If I know that they'll eat it, I'm gonna just do some fan casting, and then it'll become a search bait at the end. So I'm not trying to start it that way, but it's a good way to get their attention, especially if they're suspended. Suspended fish are terrible. Check it out. Catching fish on this rod is so fun, dude. Don't jump. Oh, oh. I said no. Oh, there you go. It's a nice little guy. Dude, it's always right there too.
You like that?
Yeah. Watch this though, it's barely in there.
Wow.
Yeah. Alright, there you go. On the 3-inch Hazedong, right? Super sick bait that gets overlooked a lot, but people are trying to figure out what technique to fish it. The hover shot's great.
That's not a bad one, dude.
Yeah.
What was that one doing?
He was just hanging out with some carp.
Yeah,
we saw some carp, and they were like, "Oh, that one's got to be a bass." And then I cast it in there, immediately just came, hit it up.
That's sick.
Yeah, dude. So super overlooked bait is the Hazedong, but dude, it's so fun. My favorite ways to fish. One of my favorite ways to fish it is on the hover shot or the hover stroll. So there's that. Let's try a new bait.
There you go.
Oh, I got a different one. Look at all of them.
Holy shit.
There's a bunch of them.
Dude, give me your other rod.
That was crazy. Not even the fish I was aiming at. Ooh. Okay. He's angry. Oh, he's beautiful though. Look at those colors.
Yeah. Of course the smaller one eats it. That is a pretty one. He's all lit up, dude.
He is angry. It's crazy because the baits are so small that they're only in their mouth. And they're just hanging out. Oh, yeah. Oh no.
Alright.
Alright, there you go. Optimum victory tail. Tossed my bait. But yeah.
Pretty one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's get this guy back in the water.
That was cool.
Yeah. That didn't take long. Yeah, so school of bass swimming around, casted it in there, a couple shakes, and of course the smallest one took it. Yeah, let's go see if we can find some more. That last fish was caught on the 3-inch Optimum victory tail. This color is called Money. I love this bait when I'm fishing the hover shot really fast. All right, this one sinks a little faster, so you got to move it a little quicker on the top of the surf to keep it on the top of the surface. But as you can tell, when the fish are suspended and aggressive, they're gonna eat it. Like, that was quick. So there's that one. Super fun way to fish, Jeff. It's light, it's fun, it's not dragging something on the bottom, so you're constantly doing something. Like, you know how like dragging stuff kind of is boring? I'm not doing that here.
I see that you're always shaking the rod.
Yeah.
You're always reeling. There's always action.
Yeah, there's always something going on in my hand. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to fall asleep. I feel like I always have to be moving.
And you're doing pretty light shakes.
Yeah.
So it's precise. You can't kind of just mindlessly do it.
Yeah, with that bait, you're just trying to get it to, the tail to twitch and then the body to roll. If you pop it too much, it's going to go all over the place. It's going to be more like a fluke than what you're trying to accomplish with the hover stroll. All right, guys, we just got back to the shop. Had a good morning. How'd you feel about that, Jeff?
It was fun. Like, we had some interesting bites too, like that bass with that carp.
Yeah,
like, that was so funny.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
And it's a cool technique, and I think more guys hopefully will take something away from this video.
Yeah, I hope so. So we just came back to the shop. We want to talk about some of the gear. I'll talk about what I was using out there, and I'll just talk about some other options that are available to you. All right, so let's start with baits. Obviously, you guys know that I really love the Mylar Minnow.
Yes, sir.
We started with the Mylar Minnow, and we got on them right away.
First cast was it?
First cast, right away. Jeff wasn't even ready.
Yeah, no, we were shooting the shit.
Yeah, I was kind of just testing out my cast length, and we're getting bit. So that's the Mylar Minnow right there. The Mylar Minnow comes in a 2.5 and a 3.5. Either size works very well. It's got this little tube of Mylar on the inside of it. So when you're working the hover shot, it kind of rotates like this, and then it creates a major flash in the water. It's pretty sick. And then obviously the tail's gonna move like this. One of the big things with the hover shot for me is that I like to use a straight tail, something with a thin tail profile. Sometimes it'll be forked and sometimes just pretty straight. That way you get not a ton of action in that tail.
No.
It's bouncing back and forth, but it's the roll of the bait that really attracts that fish.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it has to be, for me, it has to be semi-buoyant. Like sinking, but super, super slow. Even after I add that nail in there, I just want it to slow sink so I can work it slowly on the surface.
Would you say the Mylar's probably like your starter, your go-to?
Yeah, it's my go-to. I really like it. I've caught so many fish on a Mylar Minnow that it's hard for me to not use it.
Right.
And it works in this technique very well. The Optimum 3-inch Victory Tail is another one of my favorites. This one is a little bit heavier, so you switch it to a lighter nail, you toss it out there, and you can work it faster. The Victory Tail is a really neat bait. I've been using this for years. Big body profile and a thick V-tail on there. Right? Like, that's not your standard fork-tail bait.
No.
It's thick, but it does a lot of motion, and then the way that the body's shaped, it still gets a ton of roll. And I think that the flash, dude, the flash has got to like get them going.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the style baits that I really like to use. I caught a few on the Megabass 3-inch Hazedong. Same thing. It's just a straight bait, almost a worm, but small enough to keep that small profile for the small hooks. A little bit of weight, get that tail wiggle. Braid fish roller. All right.
Slightly bigger, right?
Yeah, this one's a big one, but it sinks really slow. And I noticed when we were using it, Jeff, that most of them are falling horizontally.
Yeah.
This one falls face down. It was sinking like super slow like this, but as soon as you twitched it,
It righted itself.
yeah, it righted itself, and it had a major roll.
Yeah.
It was like almost 180 degrees each way.
Yep.
And the flash on these is insane. But when you need a bigger profile, same size hook as everything else.
Yep.
We just changed the profile of the bait, and it still worked very well. You stuck a good one on this.
Yeah.
So there's that right there. Some of the hooks that I was using.
You would say this is probably the most important piece of the hover shot is choosing the right hook, you'd say, right?
Yeah, so the hook is going to be very important, right? These hooks are small.
Yeah.
Right? So you need a hook that's going to be strong enough, because we're still not targeting small fish. We're still trying to catch the biggest fish around.
Yep.
Right? So you need a hook that's going to stand up to that, but still remaining really, really small. Right? So obviously the hover shot hook from Ryugi, great option right there. This is your standard 90-degree hover shot hook, but this is the one that comes with a bait keeper.
Okay.
So when you're using it, you're not as worried about, I don't know, can you see this, Jeff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it comes with a bait keeper, 90-degree with the line tie going sideways. All right, so great hook. That line tie creates a lot of roll.
A roll. Yeah.
So you have your straight line tie and your sideways line tie. That sideways one creates a lot of roll.
Of roll, just from that.
Yeah. So, and then you're obviously you're gonna match your hook with your bait. So the size, size 2, size 1, whatever bait that you're using.
Okay.
Some other good options in hooks. Decoy makes really good hover shot hooks. The Decoy hooks are super strong. So Jig 52, Jig 53. The Jig 52 is going to be your 90-degree. This one has a straight line tie. Right? So it's going to be more of a forward motion with, if you're trying to use that tail a little bit more, right? And then the Jig 53 has a 60-degree line tie, and it's going to be sideways. So when you're working it, it's gonna add a little bit different of an action to that bait right there. No bait keepers on these.
Oh, okay.
Right, but they're tiny, but they're super strong. Decoy makes a really, really good hook. And then if you really want to go light, right, the Jig 12, we have it in small sizes. So that's a size 10.
That's micro.
Yeah, micro. And
jeez,
I don't even know.
It's a little small, huh?
Yeah. So
when they're on fry.
Yeah, that fish roller micro. It's a killer, dude.
Wow.
But it's small, but you know,
how do you
sometimes you
that?
need to get small.
Yeah.
Right. But this is gonna be your multi-species killer.
Yeah.
It's gonna catch
Crappie,
everything.
bluegill,
Crappie,
bass,
bluegill, bass, trout.
Yeah.
The stripers. You know how sometimes the stripers get on these
only on
weird,
fry. Yeah.
weird bites.
That's it.
This is what we have to go to.
Yep.
Something this small, but super effective bait. I mean, you're gonna have to go light line with this because the hook is strong, but it's not 10-pound test strong.
Yeah.
Right. So this is like a 2, 3, 4
easily.
pound.
Yeah.
But it's fun. You get in that light line and you got to actually fight the fish.
Yep.
It's a good time.
Oh yeah.
Right. So those are some of the baits that I use. Some of the baits that I like. There's other options out there. I recommend you guys, take a look on the website, see some of these baits that you say, hey, I think I could hover shot that. You probably can. You probably have a really great time. All right. As far as the rod I was using.
Oh, what nail weights are you using, by the way?
Oh yeah, let's talk about nail weight. I use the adjust nail.
Oh, okay.
So the adjust nail is sectioned off to where you can cut it into pieces. I didn't have to cut it into pieces. They're still pretty light as a whole. If you look at it, I have the 0.3 and the 0.15.
Oh yeah, those
right
are small.
Here. Right here, pretty small, and that's the whole piece.
Thing, yeah.
Is going to be a 0.15 or a 0.3, and then when you break it down, it's going to give you 1/3 piece
Mhm.
weight on there.
Into 3. Okay.
Be careful when you're using them. They're tiny. These things are small, so you got to really pay attention to when you're using them. But it's a pretty effective nail weight. If you like a screw-in style nail weight, Gambit makes this 1/64 gram, and you can screw it in there. It's gonna hold in there a lot better, but it's also a little bit heavier. So if you're fishing, you're trying to get a little bit deeper in that column, that's a good option right there too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about rods. So when I'm out there and I'm fishing the hover shot, I'm looking for a rod that's got enough whip to it to get these light baits out of there.
Yep.
But it needs to be fast enough to where I can work the bait without either pulling it or working my rod and the bait's not moving.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just flexing too much. So I like this regular action. I really like this action in a rod.
Okay.
Right? And it has to be light, so f2.5, a medium light or an ultra light.
Yeah.
Medium light down to ultra light are good options. This Destroyer, Evoluzion, Spin Elseil 2. One of the sickest light rods out there on the market, dude.
Yeah.
You was first time using it?
Yeah.
How'd it feel?
It was so light when you handed me the rod, and I was like, holy crap. And then even casting the baits, it felt perfect. And then working the baits, it's sensitive. And like you said, working the hover stroll, it's kind of precise. Where you don't want to do too much action, but you can't just reel it in. There's a lot of light shaking, and you can feel what the bait's doing with that rod.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I think this rod has a huge range of what baits you can throw on there and different weight ranges on there. But, I mean, when you fight a fish on this thing,
that's so fun.
It's fun. It's gonna keep them stuck.
Yep.
And it's just gonna bring the fish in. 9 out of 10 times you're catching the fish.
Yep.
Spin Elseil 2, sick rod. Other options that I've toyed around with and have had a good time with are Levante and Orochi whip snakes. So these rods right here, most people are nose rig, drop shot, Ned rig. It casts really light baits, amazing. So, and then it's gonna have that same type action right there, right? It's not too fast, it's not too slow. It's gonna be right there in the middle, to where you're gonna be able to work those baits. So the whip snake and either are gonna be good options. The Levante is great. The Orochi is a little bit of an improvement on that rod, or on that type of rod, but a great option right there. And then if you like the P5, we got one in the P5.
Got you covered.
We got you covered. All right. So the P5 Whippet.
Oh yeah.
Right. So probably the lightest out of all these rods. It's an F2, but remember that the P5s, I feel like they're going to be rated a little bit lower, but they're going to be super strong. And then as you can see, it has that same tip on there. Yeah. That same tip on there. This rod it feels small. It's super light. It's not it's not Evoluzion light. But it's light, and then you can work those baits. Right. None of these rods are over 6'11" is the longest one of these rods. So you have a lot of control on what you're doing. Yeah, you can definitely control it very well. The hover shot is a very, very finessey technique.
I'd say so. Yeah.
It's hard for a lot of guys to go out there and throw finesse because we think about like drop shot, Ned rig, super boring stuff where you're just casting and kind of like slow dragging. But this one, you have to be active while you're using it.
The whole time.
Yeah. There's no slowing down. If you want to hit those columns right, and you want to hit the water column right,
you got to pay attention.
And you can't just reel these baits in all the time. You got to give it that roll, so that little twitch of the rod tip. So it adds a little bit of fun to it. And then when you get bit and you're just fighting that fish on that light line, it's fun, dude.
What's your average line that you're fishing? I'm guessing a braid to leader on a spinning reel?
Yeah, always braid to leader on spinning. 15-pound braid to on the hover shot. I think we're using a 6 or 7 pound out there. Sometimes it felt like it was too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But, you can go lower. I definitely wouldn't go any higher than a 7.
Yeah, I don't think any higher would be good.
Yeah, and then if you're going to use the D braid, 19-pound D braid works the best.
Okay.
As far as reels, obviously know I'm using an Exist,
Yeah.
but any reel, make sure you have a good drag system on the reel.
Yeah,
right.
very
The drag
important.
system is going to be the most important part of that reel. There's so many different options out there. You have Kage, Kage LT, which is got an amazing drag system on there. There's options out there. Make sure that your drag is set correctly, because those fish are going to run, and you're using light line. You don't want to break them off.
Yeah.
You don't want to bend your hooks out. So you have to actually fight the fish.
Yes.
It's not just dragging a fish in as fast as possible. You have to fight them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's longer than you want it to be, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
You'll catch a ton of fish using a hover shot. If you have any questions, just ask them down below. I really appreciate you guys coming along this journey with us.
Yeah, it was a fun morning, dude.
Yeah, it was
It was
dope.
sick.
We caught fish.
Had a good time.
Got to fight some fish. Got to get barked at by a lot of dogs.
A lot of dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, it is what it is. Had a good time. Easy early morning catching fish. Yeah, so on behalf of everybody here at the Hookup, Ben and Jeff and everybody, thank you. If you have any questions, let us know. Y'all have a great day.